Kicks 105.5. Good morning. I'm JJ. It's Wednesday, November 17th. It's 7:52. Currently 20 degrees outside. Have your weather forecast coming up in just a little bit. But first, we have Michael Barrett from the Barrett Insurance Agency with us this morning. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning. If you're calling me Michael, I feel like I'm in trouble. That's the you're getting scolded now. You've done something wrong. So how are you?
I am well. A little bit chilly here this morning.
Little bit. It's the time of year where, furnaces and boilers always work in the summer.
Yeah, you don't need them.
No, it's this time of year where they start to present their problems. So unfortunate that it's a little chilly in here this morning, but still warmer than it is outside. So
Yes.
Yeah.
We are having our furnace service today.
Good. But, on that note with, wintertime and this time of year, it's time to think about winter driving. We all know how to drive in the winter, but we all have to be reminded how to drive in the winter. You're used to just going along in the summer months, in the spring and the fall. But this time of year, like even this morning, it looks suspect that there's probably some nice little patches of slippery spots on the road, some black ice probably out there. Spots that look wet on the road when it's 18 degrees. Makes you wonder,
Yeah, that's probably ice.
So, it's time to think about having appropriate reaction times and be slowing down a little bit, taking your time, giving yourself more time to get to work. Again, you're covered by your auto insurance, hopefully, if you have it, but you want to do your best to mitigate the loss. So just be careful driving, and keeping an eye out for others. One of the things that I see a lot this time of year that's pretty important to think about is making sure you scrape your windows. I saw a number of folks this morning who were kind of driving through the peephole. They had that little spot where they were able to their heat might have hit it just right when they started their car off. So they had a small little circle that they were looking out the windshield. And, that's a pretty dangerous way to drive. So you want to make sure you're doing that. Make sure your side windows are clear so you can see when you're at those intersections to turn left or right. Make sure you're not cutting anybody off. And why am I bringing this up? Well, for insurance, we're always wanting to make sure people are being as safe as they possibly can. Knowing that we're there if you need us, but it's incumbent upon all of us as drivers just to take that extra steps to be safe, and also things such as just making sure you have emergency kits in your car, maybe some sand or some kitty litter a lot of people will use, making sure you got the proper layers of clothes. You may want to just go out with a light coat for the drive, but what if something happens and you're stuck for a while? You want to make sure you have proper gear to make sure you're going to stay nice and warm on those frosty Northeast Kingdom days. So
right. So yeah, especially if the engine ain't running and you can't run the heat.
Yeah,
it's going to drop pretty quick.
It's going to get pretty brisk pretty quick. And another thing too, we haven't seen it yet. We've seen some snow, but we haven't seen a lot of measurable snow. But don't forget, it's really important to make sure you're brushing your vehicle off completely. You're going to be liable if a big block of ice or a patch of snow flies off and hits the car or truck behind you. So take the extra steps to make sure that you're all safe and ready to go. And, right now I'm going to be joining the summer tire club on the side of the roads if I'm not careful. I've yet to get my winter tires on. Yep. So that's another thing to think about, too. Try to be a little prepared in that regard.
Well, when I got my car, it already had winter tires on.
You were ahead of the game.
So I'm like, hey, I ain't got to worry about that. But another thing is I hear about cleaning off your car. Cleaning snow off, because even if it isn't like ash or ice or a chunk of snow, that snow can blow off your car and blind somebody behind you.
Exactly. You're going to hinder somebody's ability to drive behind you, and it can be a problem. And honestly, it can turn into a liability for you if that does occur and it's found to be that snow came off of your vehicle. I mean, I'm sure somebody could work and find you. But it's just about the courtesy and making sure you're doing everything you can to mitigate loss and be safe on the roads as we have our big change of the season. And, when talking about auto insurance, there's memes on Facebook. I already mentioned one, that whole summer tires club on the side of the road. There's also this is not a liability only kind of a day. Have you seen those memes? You want to make sure you have full coverage of your car certain days when the roads are bad, but not a bad time to think about what your auto insurance has for coverage right now, especially if it's been a long time. If you haven't, if you've been with the same carrier with the same policy for a number of years. I've talked to people who've had that same policy for 20 or 30 years. Think about the liability you have. Make sure it's appropriate and represents a proper asset protection for you as you grow through life and acquire things. You've bought a house, you have life insurance, you have assets. Make sure you're checking that liability, making sure it's not below what you should have.
Right.
Yeah.
That's definitely.
Yeah.
We that much time. We got about another minute. I wanted to touch base on you on a question I had. Do you offer SR22?
We do. SR22 also is called financial responsibility filing, and we have 3 carriers that we can work with that can do it. What is an SR22? All it is a document that's being provided from the insurance company to the Department of Motor Vehicles to satisfy the requirement of that SR22 filing. And that SR22 filing is just basically making sure that you are maintaining at least the minimum liability and compulsory insurance in the state in which you have that SR22. You know, there are people with Vermont licenses, Vermont cars, who have a financial responsibility filing in other states. That can happen if maybe you got a DUI in New Hampshire or in Maine, or I've seen other states as well, New York, Florida. I mean, it goes on and on. So there are many options for SR22 coverage, and it's really just a simple filing fee of like $25 to $35 on the policy. So it's very simple to do.
Okay. So now that, let's see if I'm correct on this, that actually doesn't insure your car, it insures your license.
It really doesn't insure. So all it is a form. So you're still carrying the same liability. There are people out there who need a financial responsibility filing who may not have a car at that time. So at that time, they'll get what we call a non-owner or a non-vehicle policy, where at that point they have liability insurance for them that technically, I guess you could say, is on their license. But it's just proving to the state that you're maintaining that insurance without a gap, because you have to do it for 3 years to get out of that financial responsibility requirement. Wait for that lovely letter from the state saying you have completed and you're all set, and then you can remove it from your policy. But yeah, that's why a lot of people talk about insuring their license, because they may not have a vehicle at the time that they have to carry that SR22.
Well, that is awesome to know. Okay, we are out of time. So
right.
How do people reach you if they have any questions?
Sure, give us a call, 748-5224. You can find us on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury, online, thebarrettagency.com, Google, Facebook, and YouTube. Just look for Barrett Insurance Agency.
All right, Mike, thanks so much for stopping in. You stay warm out there.
You too. Stay warm in here.
I'm going to try.